This is J. Krishnamurti's discussion with teachers at Rajghat, 1969.
What shall we do?
Krishnamurti, you had asked me as to how much these children understood and whether the teachers were at all involved in opening up this thing which was said by you through tapes and through discussing with the children. Maybe, sir, if we could go into that and whether what the teachers feel the children have understood or not. And it may or find out what they are doing, or whether there is any work being done.
Apart from that, which perhaps we can go into also, how is it possible to awaken the intelligence in the student? How do you propose to awaken that intelligence? Intelligence being, if one can more or less put it into words, making not only the physical, sensitive, the organism very alert and very active, and the mind highly sensitive and pliable, with a great deal of feeling and passion and all that's involved. How is it possible to awaken that? Can one discuss that a little bit? Do you think that would be worthwhile to discuss?
In this context, I was wondering if we could go into a little more into learning and acquiring knowledge. In the same.
All right, we'll do that. All right, that we'll begin with that then. I made a statement like that. What do you think of it? Is it silly? Does it sound nonsensical? One must have knowledge, mustn't one? All knowledge being arithmetic, which has been gone into, put together for nearly 2,000 or 3,000 years, scientific knowledge, and the whole structure, nature of knowledge, which one must have. Technologically, an experience. After all, when one meets a snake, there is the knowledge that's going to hurt you, and there is fear, danger, and you leave it alone or act. Such knowledge, it seems, man must have. To read, to speak different languages, to drive a motor car. It's the whole field of knowledge has been developed for millions of years. And one is adding more and more to that knowledge through experience, through experimentation, through new discovery, through new ways of doing things, living under the sea and going to the moon and, whole of that. That is, there is always addition to what has already been known. Sometimes that knowledge is mistaken, they take it away and add more, and so on and on and on. What is the difference between that and the active present of learning? You please tell me what you think. I mean, I know what I think. What do you think? What do you think he's learning? When you say the boys or the girls must learn, what do you mean by that word?
While learning, there is no past.
Beg pardon?
While one is learning, there is no past.
Yes.
At that moment.
At the moment of learning, either... Go ahead, so you tell me. I'll wait.
But one cannot go with it for a longer time. There is a disturbance in the mind.
So, merely, what does that word mean? The word. To learn. What does it mean? Have you got a dictionary anywhere near here?
There should be direct communication.
I've got an Oxford Concise. What would you say? What does that word mean? To learn. I have learned that fire burns. I put my finger into it and it has burnt me, caused pain, and I've learned not to be careful with fire. To learn through experience, accumulated knowledge. Right? To learn. Can a mind learn if it is not curious? I want to speak Hindi because I live in this country. And I'm eager to communicate to you something which I feel. So I learn a language. I learn to climb a mountain. I learn the danger of fire. I learn to avoid every form of danger. What does that word mean, actually? Go ahead, sir. You got it?
Get knowledge of or skill in by study, experience, or being taught.
Being taught.
receive instruction, be informed, ascertain, find out.
What's the root meaning? Apprendere.
Latin word, painting, to swim, learn it from or of you, learn by heart, something like that.
What's the root? Latin word, apprendere, aprire, insegnare.
That in the Latin, that painting to swim.
What?
Latin, painting to swim. It's on the right hand.
To swim?
To swim.
Learn it. I can't. To swim. What dictionary is this?
It's a pocket dictionary. You need a
No, it doesn't give you a proper.
We have to look up.
What does it mean to you, sir, to learn? What is the Hindi word or the Sanskrit word equivalent to learn, of learning? What's the Hindi word?
Sikhana.
Huh?
Sikhana.
What does that mean, that word mean to you? But what does that mean?
To go, adhi with e to go.
Beg pardon?
To go from one to another. Adhyaya. E means to go, adhi is the prefix. And there is
To move from one thing to another. Is that it?
Yes, to go into.
Go into.
What is the, what would you say for the word grahan?
Grahana means to accept.
Whether grahan is not the real translation of the word to learn.
Grahana means to accept. To take.
Yes, but you just see, I don't think you're getting the word to learn correctly.
Actually, sir, Sikhana means to know.
Learn means अध्ययन करना और
So when you use the word to learn, what does that mean to you?
To get to understand about something that we are. Get to know everything about.
Get to know everything about that particular thing. Is that what you mean by learn?
It's what I know. Yes, it is.
To know, to be informed, to be acquainted with, to be in touch with, to acquire knowledge, to have experience, to know, yes, to be completely in contact with, to be in relation with something so as to learn about it. Would you say all that's implied? Huh? And having done all that, you acquire knowledge, information about that, right? And from that knowledge, you act. Having learned, having acquired, having been informed, having experimented, having tested, you act from the knowledge and proceed from action to action from having acquired more and more knowledge. Would you say that is what you mean by knowledge, by learning? That's obvious, sir. That's what we'd say, that's learning. This total movement of acquiring, being informed, experience, test, all that has become the memory, and from that memory you act. Right? The student knows, having acquired knowledge about mathematics, when he is asked a question about it, he responds according to his knowledge, to his memory, to his information, right? So action is the response of memory. Is that what you'd call learning?
One of the things in it, as it says,
What is
commit
that?
to memory.
What?
Commit
To memory, that's
by
right.
heart or rote.
Yes, by heart or
Become aware that how, etc. Ascertain, receive instruction,
That's
teach.
right.
It's all, it's,
I wish you could get the root of it.
it's not given.
Oh, no.
The German is given, but from German learned.
In French I know, in Italian I know, but apprendere. Well, all that, to use the word for the moment, process, all that process is learning. Having learned, act. Is that it? Action, not only doing things, but also examination, responding and all that. Always from the past, act in the present.
Learning is from known, going from known to unknown.
Wait, sir. Knowing, you're saying going from the known to the unknown. But going from the known to the unknown is always a movement of the past into the future. Right? Huh? So you carry with you the past into the unknown. You carry what you have learned into tomorrow, which is the unknown, or the next minute, the unknown.
But so far as the technical knowledge is concerned, this is obvious.
Huh?
It is necessary to go from
Of course. That's what we are saying. Technologically, scientifically, our whole structure is from the past to the future. Having acquired tremendous knowledge technological knowledge and experimenting with it, studying it, being thoroughly informed of it, we go to the moon. The moon is the unknown, and we move from the known to the unknown, but always with the known. Right? What is wrong with that? This is what we have done. Carry with us the yesterday into today and into tomorrow, adding or taking away. Modifying the past in the present and modifying it or retracting it in the future further. Right? But this is what we do. Is that do we call that learning, don't we? Huh? And is there another form of learning? Learning as you are doing, not having learned, doing.
But sir, whatever I do, that's the outcome of past now.
Yes, but I am learning as I am doing, which is entirely different from having learned, acting. I don't know how to garden, and I learn. In the doing I'm learning. So that it is not a movement from the past to the present and to the future. If I have learned, in the doing I am learning, and that learning becomes a knowledge that then again I enter into the other. But if I am all the time learning as I am doing, that gives a different quality to the mind, doesn't it?
Ask a question. Why do you use the word learning for the other? Because learning is associated with
knowledge, information. Now, what other word would you use? I don't care.
I'm asking, sir. The faculties which come into play in the process of learning a thing, which is stored in memory and used out of experience, there are certain faculties which operate in the mind in order to find. In this process which you are talking about, is it the same faculties which are operating? In which case then the word used would be the same word.
Are you asking, does a new faculty...
I'm asking, what is the faculty which operates in this process? Is it the same faculty which operates in the process
I understand.
we know as learning? Because after all, the process of learning is the use of certain instruments we have to acquire knowledge.
I think the other is a different quality.
If we could go into that, because using the same word, we try to use the same faculty
Yes.
to come to this, and we are all the time finding the...
May I put a question, discussion?
can one learn while acting without depending on what he has learned before?
That's what we are trying to find out, sir.
And there is a part of wonder. One who has knowledge and that will not be learning to another.
What, sir?
I know something, and for my student, that will not be learning because he doesn't know it.
Sir, Mrs. Jayakar is asking, we know what we mean by learning, all that we have said, that it's that faculty which we have acquired through millions of years. And she's asking, are you talking about another faculty which is not the old faculty? Right?
Otherwise, if we use the word in the verb as a process of learning, and try and differentiate it from accumulated knowledge, using the same faculty, we are only continuing the old process.
Surely.
We might, quibble with words, but essentially it is the same faculty which is being used in the present tense.
If we use the same faculty, the faculty which we have acquired, which we call learning, in that faculty doesn't bring freedom. Wait, let's take that, right?
And used even in the present tense will only lead to further accumulation.
Accumulation. So there is no freedom in this cultivated faculty. Right?
So I think there is one more problem to this. We are using the word knowledge and learning, say talking to teachers and students. We seem to use it in pedagogical situations.
Pedagogy, yeah.
I feel the other thing you are referring to doesn't refer at all to pedagogical situations. We have had a lot of discussions with teachers, Trishi Valley and so on. This creates always a confusion in the minds of the teacher who tries to use it in pedagogical situations, which
yes,
doesn't.
right. That is, sir, can we go on a little bit further? That is, the faculty that we have developed in learning is not the same as the faculty, or not the same as something which is entirely different from when we use the word learning. Now we're going to find out what that is. Are you interested? Are you? The faculty that we have acquired, depending on the past for action, doesn't give freedom or doesn't bring about freedom at all, right? Let's be quite sure of that. My thinking and my acting are based on the past, right? And so I'm always the mind is a slave to the past. Mind is the past, in that sense of learning, which is acquiring knowledge, accumulation, and being informed, experience, and so on, That is the storehouse of memory, and memory responds and acquires more or less. That faculty we know very well. And that faculty, in the cultivation of that faculty, there is no freedom at all. Right? And be quite clear, sir.
You see, the second portion of your sentence, that is, in this faculty there is no freedom at all. I mean, I'll listen to it tentatively, but I will make no statement.
No, I'm making the statement.
But
You can't accept it. Of course not. I'm making a statement. There is no freedom. You're carrying the past always with you. And that's what we call learning. Right? Then what is freedom? Freedom implies from the past.
Are you saying that, say, if you look at a flower, the very knowledge that you acquire about the anatomy of the flower and so on is a burden to your looking and feeling and feeling the flower?
That's what I said.
No, but you see, to take that statement is all right. One can take a statement about a flower. But to take that statement in terms of our perceptive processes, because Krishnaji, in the very moving out towards a thing, the past moves with that perception. There is no separation of perception from the past.
Past is seeing.
Is the past.
Seeing is the past.
Seeing is the past.
In that sense, yes.
So that one can only say that.
Past is seeing.
Past. There is no other faculty.
Past is seeing. Therefore, it's not seeing at all.
You see it.
Yes.
But I mean, I think it's in that, it's there. It's in that very moment, as the past as seeing, which we all know, at the peripheries and horizons of that the breakthrough must take place.
No, let us be clear. You understand?
Whatever it is, if we accept the other so easily, say,
I know.
we are just lost. What is meant by seeing a bush without the past? Without the being.
Just look at the past is looking.
Past is looking.
Huh? Right? Not. Therefore there is no fresh, new looking.
There is no, yes.
Right? I have acquired knowledge, information, and that is the past, and that past is looking at you or at the flower or at the sky.
If I may say, sir, it is not faculty utilizing the past. Faculty is the past.
Faculty is the past, quite right. It means that. The eyes are the past. The vision is the past. The hearing is the past. Right? Do we agree? Do we see that? Huh? And therefore, there is no seeing anything anew. Right? If I'm always looking, if the eyes are looking always with the past, you can't see anything new.
The past mirrors itself.
Yeah.
Sylvie, if I may go a bit slow in here, all process of teaching, learning, acquisition of knowledge, you might change the curriculum, the methods of teaching, learning, experiment, all the things that you do are in this. They are not out of
in this category.
They are
In this
not out of
way.
this.
They are not out
No
of this.
teacher can kid himself saying he is doing it out of this.
No, of course.
Very important to know.
This is, one has to realize this. I feel for myself, one has to realize this, because all experimentation in education, in curriculum, in methods, whatever you do
Is within this.
It is
In
not
this,
out of it.
in this framework.
In this. It might refine it. It's a different thing.
Right, sir. Do each one of us see that? Then why should we leave that? Why should we leave that frame, that field? Does it answer? Or does it create a new faculty at all?
No. You see, apart from the not creating the new faculty, because one may ask, is it possible for there to be a new faculty? It may not be possible. But the fact is that within this field, all conflict also is.
Of course.
Everything which is of pain, of the problem, everything is contained within this.
Sure.
So that it is a self-destructive process.
So if I may say so, the process which takes place in so-called education is repeated in life, in relationships. The acquisition of knowledge, utilization of knowledge, changing it, experimenting. The same thing takes place. The pattern is repeated in.
It's always within that field, smaller or larger, right? But it's always in that field. Right? Is that clear enough? How can we go on from there? I'm asking myself, why should we leave that field? We only want to leave it if it isn't adequate. If it isn't fulfilling the demand. Right? Demand that you look at the world with a different eyes.
No, sir. I would say something else. I would say that in this very inherent in this very process is decline and decay.
Of course, I didn't want to touch that for the moment.
Because there is inherent decline and decay, anything that continues to use this process continues to decline and decay. The mind grows duller. The incapacity to awaken intelligence.
That, after all, it's very simple. That is the tradition. That is the tradition which we have been brought up. And if I live in that tradition, I'm decaying. That's obvious.
That is one thing the only thing which is clear to me is that. Within that.
Right? I'm asking myself, do I know if the mind functions and lives in that field, it is destroying itself, decaying, right?
But wouldn't you say, living in this world, one does acquire knowledge, one does gain experience and goes through traditions, everything. In spite of it, is it not possible to use it as a stepping stone and yet not be caught by these things, caught in these things? When you know these things, yet you are not caught in this and you move on.
Can you?
The nature of mind is to accumulate. This is only influence, but the nature of mind to accumulate.
The mind is this. The mind is this field. Huh?
This is the only faculty we know.
Beg pardon?
This is the only faculty that we know.
It's the only pattern that you know, obviously. Why should you leave it? Why do we inquire anything further than that? I only inquire into it, into the further or something new, when I find this is a decaying, destructive process. Is it? Is it to you a destructive, degenerating process? Living always in the past. Acting from it, thinking from it. Obviously it is very destructive. Right? No.
But the question becomes real only one is fed up with this.
That's all implied. Do you feel, Subhaji, that that way of living is destroying India? Huh? No. Not one doesn't feel it strongly or one doesn't feel it intensely, but do you see the danger of it? Huh? Not occasion. There's not a question of occasion. You don't talk about seeing the occasional danger of a cobra. It is dangerous and always dangerous, not on certain occasions. Do I see living this way is destructive, degenerative life? And the danger of it, not occasional danger, but the perpetual danger of it. Then if I see the danger of it, then what happens? Come on, sirs, what do you say? I have to let that go, haven't I? Huh? If the doctor tells me the food you are eating is very destructive for you, and I say, well, occasionally I see it and I'll eat the right food occasionally. I must be something wrong with me. No?
Sir, whenever you put it that way again, you're tying us into a paradox. This understanding that if the doctor says something is very wrong, I don't touch it, is also an understanding which comes to me to the rational mind. And therefore, that faculty you're asking to destroy itself is itself the faculty which is receiving.
No, I am being rational.
So you cannot bring in this element of rationality into
I have to, because I tell you why.
This is where I would like to...
Just a minute, I have to bring in rationality because I can't jump into a different dimension if I'm not very rational. If I haven't understood the limit of rationality.
No, I may understand the limits of rationality, but if the faculty which is understanding the limits of rationality is itself this process.
Therefore it's so. Therefore,
when you put this question to it, okay, when you see that it is itself the cause of decay, if it really heard this statement, that it would be true.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Where does that hearing register?
Look, the eye see a snake, and there is immediate response because the mind has been conditioned to that thing. It's conditioned for centuries and so on. Say, don't go near it. Now, the mind has not been conditioned to see the danger of living in the past, of the past acting in the present all the time. I'm used to it. That's my conditioning. Now, does the mind see, as it sees the cobra, that it is conditioned and therefore its usual response must be quiescent? So this is.
Why should the usual response be quiet? I'm just pushing it into why should
Beg pardon?
Why should the response be quiet?
Because I see, to meet anything new, to look at anything new, the leaf, to see the leaf as something which I have never seen before, is living, is in a different dimension. Something new is taking place. If I'm always looking with the same eyes, there's nothing new under heaven. Well, what do you say, sirs? You are asking, what is it that sees the danger, the decaying process of living, of the past living?
I'm saying this. The brain cells are operating. The brain cells hold the past. They are projecting through perception. The statement they see it is possible consciousness gets aware that the mind decays, that the mind is dull, that the growth of dullness is greater. All that it can see. It's caught in that prison, but it can see that, it's aware of that. Suddenly this thing is put to it. What is the nature of that which takes this in, so that the memory which is contained in the brain stop operating? It's really that.
But you are bringing in something entirely different, aren't you?
Because you see, we have been listening to you all these years. We have even grown to accept it, that the eyes cannot see the new, and that a new seeing is necessary, and that in the process of learning, the new is, because there is no past.
Yes, that's right, that's right.
We are accepting it.
You're accepting
it. Let us go into it a little more fully, sir.
Do you really want to go into all this?
Otherwise it becomes a... Or if you prefer to...
I'm just asking. I don't mind going into anything. But I'm just asking, are you interested in this? The question is, how can the mind, with the brain, not function in the old pattern. Right? Right? I don't know if you're interested in this. Our teaching consists in encouraging and cultivating the old pattern. No? Right? And we are asking, can the mind, which is so heavily conditioned, free itself from the past? Right? That means the brain cells themselves be free of the various accumulated memories which are the past, right? And the question is it possible? How can this be done, right? Here I have, if I'm a teacher in this school, I have a group of students in front of me. And how shall I teach them mathematics or whatever it is without conditioning the mind and the brain cells so that it will be, when they're finished with the subject or when they have, it's something, there's a new quality has taken place in it. Is that, I don't know, huh? You know, unless you're really interested in it, please, don't go on with it, because this is terribly serious. I don't know if for them it is the cry. For me, I mean, is it a thing that you feel that you've got to understand? Otherwise, you will be always the Hindu, the Muslim and all the rest of the rubbish, functioning within the very small circle, encouraging conflict, misery, all that, right? And we are asking whether the mind with its brain cells can completely change itself, right? Does this mean anything to you, my ladies? All right, it's up to you. I'm going into it. The brain, you're biologists, some of you, you know something about it. I don't know the technical terms, so I don't read about all this. The brain demands order, right? If there is no order, it has no security. And the brain demands at any price to survive and to be secure. Right? I don't know if this is an obvious fact. The child demands it. The grown-up people demand complete security. Only they say there is security in belief. Security in a family. Security being concerned with myself. Security in some form of neuroticism. Are you following all this? So the brain is always demanding order and security for itself. Otherwise it can't survive. So it seeks security in belief, in relationship, in some form of dogmatic, assertive dogma, belief, ideas, ideals. That's what we are doing. Because it wants order and security. Whether the thing in which it seeks security is illusory, false, stupid, neurotic, doesn't matter. It wants security and finds it. Right? Right? And so, when you question the things in which it has found security, it either becomes violent, because it becomes frightened, and therefore acts violently, or if it is at all inquiring, it says it will drop this away. Right? It has found order in illusion, in delusion, and when that is questioned or challenged, it either responds aggressively and therefore resists, or it abandons it because it has no value anymore. So it seeks another form of security. Right? Are you following? So the brain demands complete protection, complete security, complete order. And when there is that, it is completely free. Right? Therefore, freedom is order and security. What do you say? He says, I'll find security in the faith of God. And obviously that's just an idea. Or it says, I'll find security in myself. I'll be more confident, more depend on myself, and so on, so on, so on. Again, that is an illusion. And yet it demands complete security. Can the brain have complete security without resorting to all these methods to something that are totally illusory? What do you say, sir? Are you following all this?
Is it insecure because it is dependent?
Obviously, it is insecure because it's dependent. Because it is insecure, it depends. It depends on the father. It depends, like most of the children say, well, sir, my father wants me to be an engineer, and I will be an engineer. Because in itself, it's confused, uncertain. So the boy thinks the father knows much more than I do. I'll do what he wants me to do. I'll marry the girl he wants me to marry. Being uncertain, dependent on somebody's assertive statement, and says, I will do. And find security in that. And then discovers the disorder in that security. Right? Because the boy begins to quarrel with the ugly woman or the ugly man. And that's the end of it. I don't know if you're following all this. Right? What?
Order in the sense of security or orderliness?
No, look. Has it happened to you, before you go to sleep, you review the day? Huh? Why do you do it? In reviewing the day, you're putting things in order, aren't you? You say to my Joe, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done that. I wish, you're putting order, aren't you? The brain demands order, and that's why you review. Huh? Yes. I'm saying at the end of the day, when you're in bed, you review the day and say, you wish this was different, that was different. You bring about order before going to sleep. Or, if you don't bring about order before you go to sleep, the brain brings about an order in itself through dreams and so on and so on. You follow this? So, order, it demands. Otherwise it gets lost. Otherwise it's insecure. Otherwise there's no safety. Right?
Is this order or security that the brain demands?
No, it's nothing to do with challenge. It has to have an order, sir. Otherwise it becomes diseased. Otherwise it fights, it goes through hell, as most human beings do. Right? So it wants order. Otherwise it can't survive. It survives destructively. So, the brain cells themselves demand order. And therefore it depends on the past to bring about order. Right? Are you following this? And you come along and say, look, that is not order. That is disorder, that's destructive. What is it that sees that it is destructive? Is it the old brain with the old cells which have sought security, fought for it, destroying itself in the things in which it thinks it is secure? Are you following? What is it that says, by Jove, this is so? There must be a change.
The old brain which is fed up with the destruction and insecurity and all that, disorder and all that. This brain, when it faces disorder, insecurity, and it is fed up with it, then it says no. It's
No,
not
sir.
important.
No, sir. Look, sir. Do wait a minute. You are missing the whole point. It's very simple. Do listen to it. As I said, the brain demands order, security. It has found security in the past, in the tradition, in experience, in knowledge. It has found security in some belief, in some dogma, in some ritual, in the family, in a word. And it's perfectly satisfied. Though it is in a state of decay, though it is in a state of conflict, it says, I can't do anything anymore. I can only escape through drink, through sex, through some form of neurotic behavior. And it's satisfied with that, because it doesn't know way out. You come along and say, look, living in the past is destructive. Past all that. Now, what is the act of listening to you? Do I listen with the noise of the past, or do I listen entirely differently, without the noise? I think that's where the clue is. Am I listening to what you say with all the noise filling my ears and eyes, or do I listen without that noise?
If I am listening to all the noise behind me, then I am listening to the noise, not you. So
Find out, sir. Find out. Don't ask me. Find out. I say to you, when you live in the past, you are dead. Are you listening or responding, twitching from the dead field? Find out. So I have to find out an act of listening which is free from the past. Can the brain listen through ears and so on? Can the brain listen without its having its root in the past? knowing the brain is the result of the past. All the cells in it are conditioned by the past. To put it differently, the old brain is the past. Which has sought order, security in things that can never possibly bring about order and security. In nationalism, in the family, in ideas, in ideologies and so on. It has sought. And hoping to find in those order and security. And somebody comes along and says, can you listen to what is being said without the old brain acting? If you're going to teach the student cultivating his brain, encouraging the past, he will never see anything new. And therefore he will help to carry on the decaying society. Right? And that's what you are all doing, obviously. Sorry to put the burden onto you, that's what you're doing. And if you want to say, by Jove, that's very destructive, it has no meaning. You have to see that it has no meaning. Not I tell you and therefore you see. You yourself have to see the poisonous nature of such teaching. Then you will say, now, how am I to teach? Please do listen to how am I to teach so that the old brain can function without distorting the new brain. You're following all this? Or the old brain transform itself into the new brain. How will you set about it, sir, if that is what you want to teach, as you are the teachers? How about what you're going to do?
The old brain meets the statement. I'm going back to it. The first response is that the old brain has heard that it will be destroyed if it. So, for security, It listens. The first response.
That's right.
Because it wants security, not to be destroyed. And then it's...
I know. But it is demanding security. Yes. Therefore, it's going to find it in the new statement.
Yes. And then it sees that again it is demanding security.
No. It must be secure, not demanding. It has got to be secure.
Because
then why do you eat?
Then the first response was, one seeks it as in the usual, as seeking security in everything else. It seeks security because it knows that if it doesn't, then it will be destroyed.
Yes.
And then seeing that this is also another movement of the old brain,
yes, it
stops.
Does it stop?
I don't know. It waits. That's what I...
No, don't please. It will. There is no such thing as it will.
No, I said it stopped.
And then, how will you teach your children? Follow the next step. Knowing that their brain must have security at any cost. Otherwise, you won't eat. You wouldn't go to sleep. You wouldn't take exercise. You wouldn't do anything. You follow what I mean? The brain must have complete, total security. And when that is assured, it can function freely, without distortion. Can you give or help to give or bring about bring about whatever it is, an atmosphere, so the child feels completely secure and doesn't go back to the false securities.
What is that new security you are talking about?
So, not new security. So, brain needs to be secure, safe, protected, feeling completely a state in which it cannot be disturbed. Then it can function properly. That it is demanding that all the time. And it must have that. So, it says, I will become a nationalist. No, watch it. It says, I will become a nationalist because that's very important. I'll be safe there. I'll be safe with a family. I'll be safe within a dogmatic belief. Follow, sir? So it has cultivated all these so-called safe, secure things, and they are not. So it realizes it, and then not knowing what to do, it becomes neurotic. Slightly distorted, and say, at least in distortion I'll be secure. No? Are you following all this? Like the man who says, I believe in God. Whether it's right or wrong, false, illusory, that belief gives to the brain a great sense of safety. Knowing all the time the brain has only one thing that it wants, complete safety, completely protected and secure. That's what you're asking, sir. That's what each one of you is asking. A job you want to keep your position, your prestige, your family, that's what you want. And you'll fight everybody who kind of pushes you out. And therefore you compete. You won't let the school go or your position say, "Oh my God, I must hold on to it. What shall I do?" And so it gradually develops a neurotic attitude towards having a position in the school. You follow? Say, "I'm the headmaster," or whatever it is. It's my school. Because it has found security in that. Though it is not your school. So it is frightened. Therefore, more it is frightened, the more it clings to the position and so on, right? And in clinging to that, it finds an order in it. Justification, right? But all the time underneath there is a fear. Fear by Joe, I'm not capable of holding on, but I'll hold on. I'll fight off anybody else like a dog with a bone. The dog with the bone is very secure. Till somebody comes along and says, "I want part of that," and they fight. Right? Gosh, you see the implication of all this, huh? Huh?
I'm seeing all this. What is that new security? You say that...
No, not new security. It wants security, and it has tried to find security in all these things. And these things are utterly valueless. And there is no security in them at all. But yet it wants security, otherwise it can't function. You got it? No problem, sir. No. To see that the things in which it has sought security have no security. Therefore, let go. Therefore, what is it faced with? Huh? Insecurity. Watch it, sir. Go into it very carefully. Complete insecurity. Right? I've held on to the God, the church, the family, my wife, my position, this and that. And you come around and say, "Look, you're really not secure in any of them. Somebody is better coming to take your place. You may fight it, but you will be gradually pushed out. The bureaucrat wants to hold on. Right? So when the brain realizes all this, it becomes completely insecure, right? Right? So then what takes place? Go on, sir. Step by step, go on. What are you hesitating? Yes, sir. What happens when you're insecure?
The freedom stops.
Huh?
Freedom stops.
No. What happens when you're insecure, sir? You're frightened, aren't you? Oh, for God's sake, what's the matter? When there's complete insecurity, there's complete fear. Right? Why? Huh? Which means what?
For my existence.
Which means what, sir? Go on. Which means the brain wants security. And it cannot live in insecurity. Therefore, it will find another security. You follow?
In some other kind of form.
Yeah, another woman, another man, another God, another church, another position. So, if it realizes that any search for security will bring insecurity, then it won't seek security, and therefore it is secure. Got it? Have you got it, sir? Yes. Do, sir. Don't be so quick.
But sir, here is a confusion. You say you give not this sort of security to the children here in the school, but give them total security.
I said, sir, if you can make the student feel at home completely, home, you know what that means? Which means security. Protection.
This is all these false securities. They must see to all these false securities.
Yes, therefore your teaching consists, you are helping them to understand the false securities in which they sought security, including their blasted parents. Sorry. So the mind, confronted with complete insecurity, gets frightened and therefore goes off again, seeking something to avoid this enormous danger of insecurity. Guru, you follow? So what happens? If the brain sees that any form, watch it carefully, any form of movement on its part to seek security will inevitably bring insecurity. Any movement on its part. It stops moving. Therefore, the state of non-movement is complete security. I don't know if you get it. Have you got it, sir? 11 o'clock doesn't matter. Have you understood something of this? From that, can you make the child, the student, feel at home here? Which means at home means he is free and completely secure. If he feels completely at home and completely free and secure, then you can point out to him the insecurity of the things in which man has sought security. Are you getting this, sir? Oh, Lord. Can you do it? Say, look, your gods are phony. The nationality is phony. The position which you're going to cling to is going to create great disorder in you. Therefore, great insecurity. You follow, sir? Teach him. And you can only teach him if you have understood it. Not just say, well, verbally repeat some rot, they'll soon spot your hypocrisy. So the brain cells which have been conditioned to function in security has found security in things that are not secure. Now, the brain cells can be transform themselves or bring about a mutation in themselves when it accepts complete insecurity and therefore complete security. You got it? I wonder if you... Which means, security in non-movement of the brain. Well, I won't go into that. Huh? You got it? Have you got it? Movement in which, in the past, its movement has been from what it considered security to security, in which there have been insecurity. That's all its movement has been, from security to security, which it has found insecure, moved on to another insecurity, would make it into security, right? If that movement stops, which is the movement of the old brain, the old cells, stops. Then there is no movement, which is the new brain, the new cells, right? Does it mean anything to you?